Hi, everybody. Welcome to the course Listening and Speaking in ESL. And today's topic is the self and communication. And this is Dr. George Pereira for IIHS. So, today we have some questions for this topic, the self and communication. So, these are some questions posed for you. You can think about the answers as you go on listening to this video. What are the misconceptions of listening? What are the poor listening habits? Explain how speech is heard. What are the features of listening to support others? Compare the different types of listening responses. So let us find some answers. And one aspect of about listening is establishing personal identities that goes with self concept. So it's the self and communication. That's our topic. So this is very interesting, written by uh, Dorothy Lowe, and this shows what we speak and what children hear. So as teachers and children in a classroom, this is important. This is also good for the parents. So if children live with hostility, they learn to fight. If children live with ridicule, they learn to be shy. If children live with tolerance, they learn to be patient. If children live with encouragement, they learn confidence. If children live with praise, they learn to appreciate. If children live with fairness, they learn justice. If children live with security, they learn faith. If children live with approval, they learn to like themselves. If children live with acceptance and friendship, they learn to find love in the world. By Dorothy Lowe Nolte. So those words are powerful indeed. Now consider the following exchange. Don't call me that. My name is Azman, screams an irritated child, responding to his brother's attempts to dub him with a nickname. The act of naming carries great social significance for us. As we learn to categorize the world around us, we also learn our place within it. Our name usually sets us apart from other people and is one of the most significant ways that we remind ourselves of our uniqueness, of our individuality. So, interpersonal communication influences the development of this unique personal identity, especially among the children in the classrooms. Since we cannot see ourselves except in mirrors, photographs, and in our mind's eye, we rely on others' impressions of us and feedback to us to form our own opinion of self. As this sense of self begins to develop, we are confronted with one of the most enduring dilemmas in social life, whether to conform to social expectations and present ourselves as one of the group, or to deviate and be seen as an individual who stands apart from the crowd. So, when we conform to standard roles and rules, we are taking on a social identity defined by and borrowed from society. When we resist standard roles or make our own rules, we are forging a personal identity. So, self concepts, how others define us, affects how we see ourselves. So, yet not all others affect us equally. Our self concept is shaped through communication with three kinds of people: the family members, peers, and society. Communication with family members, for the majority of us, family members are the first major influence on how we see ourselves. So, parents and other family members communicate who we are and what we are worth through direct definitions, identity scripts, and attachment styles. So, we can see it in the figure. Direct definitions, identity scripts, attachment styles, secure, fearful, dismissive, and anxious, ambivalent. So that's how the self concept is created. So this is within the family. So direct definition, this is communication that explicitly tells us who we are by labeling us and our behaviors. For example, gender stereotypes to children. So girls may be told, nice girls don't play rough. Or we could say, girls don't laugh aloud. You should help mom around the house. Don't get your clothes dirty. To the boys, go and get them. Uh, on the other hand, boys are more likely to be told, go and get them, stick up for yourself, and boys don't cry. As we hear these messages, we pick up our parents and society's gender expectations. Then, family members provide direct communication about who we are through statements. Positive labels such as you are smart, you are strong, you are great at soccer. Then, negative labels to the opposite, to the child, destroying and damaging the self esteem. You are hopeless, you are stupid. So, family members also offer direct definitions of our racial and ethnic identities. In cultures with a majority race, members of minority races often make special effort to impart racial identity to children. Example, the ethnic training in many African American families stresses both positive identification with black heritage and awareness of prejudice from non blacks. The second one is identity scripts. According to psychologists, these are rules for living an identity. Like the scripts for plays, identity scripts define our roles and how we are to play them, and basic elements in the plots of our lives. Think back to your childhood and identify some of the principal scripts that operated in your family. We are known for our word, save your money for a rainy day. These are examples of identity scripts people learn in families. So these identity scripts shape the behavior. So how could they be used to motivate students to learn English? So I think it begins with family, educating the parents to say that they can, more positive feelings regarding the second language as well to the children. So attachment styles is the third. Attachment styles are patterns of parenting that teach us who we and others are and how to approach relationships. Most children form their first human bond attachment with the parent, normally the mother. The first bond attachment is especially crucial because it forms expectations for later relationships. So there are four distinct attachment styles. Secure attachment style is more positive. The caregiver responds in a consistently attentive and loving way to the child. Then the positive sense of self-worth is developed. Positive view of others is developed. I am lovable. People are loving and can be trusted. Adults with a secure attachment style tend to be outgoing, affectionate, and can handle the challenges and disappointments of close relationships without losing self-esteem. So equally important, these people are usually comfortable with themselves when they are not involved in close relationships. So they do not depend on relationships to develop their self-worth. Then the other point is fearful attachment style. A fearful attachment style is cultivated when the caregiver communicates negative, rejecting, abusive ways to the child. So children infer that they are unworthy of love and others do not love them. So they begin to see themselves as unlovable and others as rejecting. So they have a fearful attachment style, tend to be apprehensive about relationships. Although they want to establish close bonds, they fear to trust people. As adults, they may avoid others to feel insecure in relationships. Then, dismissive attachment style. This also promoted by caregivers who are disinterested, rejecting, or abusive towards children. So the children develop the view that they are unlovable. Instead, they typically dismiss others also as unworthy. Children develop a positive view of themselves and a low regard for others and relationships. So they think only about themselves and not disregard the others. As adults, they often develop defensive view of relationships and regard them as unnecessary or undesirable. The other one is anxious ambivalent attachment style. This more complex parenting pattern, this attachment style is fostered by inconsistent treatment from the caregiver. Sometimes the caregiver is attentive and loving, yet at times indifferent and rejecting. The caregiver's communication is inconsistent and unpredictable. So, this unpredictability can cause anxiety for the child who depends on the caregiver. Since the children tend to think that adults are always right, they believe that they are the source of any problem. So, as adults, people with anxious, ambivalent attachment style often are inconsistent themselves. One day they invite affection, the next day they rebuff it and deny wanting closeness. So that's the personalities. And the speaking listening skills are related to their background experiences. Then from the family, we move to the communication with peers. A second major influence on our self concept is communication with peers. That is, or what social scientists term significant others. It can happen in two ways, the influence, through reflected appraisal and social comparison. One girl says, "This new hairstyle makes you look younger." Another girl with short hair says, "Really? Thank you." In her head, "I look young." So, reflected appraisal is the way we reflect the appraisals that others make of us. This concept is known as the looking glass self. This means that if others communicate that they think we are smart, we are likely to reflect that appraisal in how we act and think about ourselves. Peers also use reflected appraisals to let us know when our behaviors are not acceptable. This is one of the primary ways we learn social norms. A second way in which communication with peers affect our self-concept is through social comparison, which ourselves comparing ourselves with others to form judgments of our own talents, abilities, qualities, and so forth. While reflected appraisals are based on how we think others view us, social comparisons are our own use of others as measuring sticks for ourselves. So we utilize social comparisons in two ways. First, we compare ourselves with others to decide whether we are like them or not. Most people are more comfortable with others who are like them. So they gravitate towards those they regard as similar. Second, we use social comparisons to gauge ourselves in relation to others. As there is no absolute standards of beauty, intelligence, talent, and so on, we measure ourselves in relation to others. Then another aspect is communication with society. The third influence on our self concepts is interaction with society in general. The perspectives of society are called the perspectives of the generalized other because they reflect the views that others in a society generally hold. The perspectives of the generalized other are revealed to us in two ways. First, they surface in interactions with others who have internalized cultural values and pass them to us. In the course of conversation, we learn how society regards our sex, race, and class, and what society values in personal identity. Second, they are communicated to us through media and institutions that reflect cultural values. Mediated communication infuses our lives, telling us over and over again how we are supposed to be and providing us what with the basis for assessing ourselves. So, characteristics, features of the self concept. It can be subjective, flexible, resists change. Explain. Is subjective. The way we view ourselves may be different from others' perception and often with the observable facts. Example, people are notoriously bad judges of their own communication skills. In one study, there was no relationship between the subject's self evaluations as interpersonal communicators, public speakers, or listeners, and their observed ability to perform well in any of these areas. In another study, a random sample of men were asked to rank themselves on their ability to get along with others. Define mathematical probability, every single one of them put themselves in the top half of the population. So, why this unrealistically favorable self concept? There are several reasons. Self estimation based on obsolete facts. You used to be good, but not anymore. Result of distorted feedback. A teacher given false praise by students or a spoiled child of doubting parents. So, characteristics of communicators with positive and negative self esteem. So, what are the positives and negatives? Positive. Communicators with self esteem, very positive, they are likely to think well of others. They expect to be accepted by others. They evaluate their own performance more favorably. They perform well when being watched, are not afraid of others' reactions. They work harder for people who demand high standards of performance. They are inclined to feel comfortable with others. They wish to be superior in some way. They are able to defend themselves against negative comments of others. Then the communicators with negative self-esteem, they are likely to disapprove of others, expect to be rejected by others. They evaluate their own performance less favorably. They perform poorly when being watched. They are positive to possible negative reactions. They are sensitive to possible negative reactions. They work harder for undemanding, less critical people. They feel threatened by people they view as superior in some way. They have difficulty defending themselves against others' negative comments. They are more easily influenced by the negative comments. So, a healthy self concept is flexible. People change. We change from moment to moment. You may wake up in a bad mood and turn good mood. You wake up in a good mood and turn grumpy right after lunch. You might be patient at work but lose your temper at home. Our self concepts react to these changes, and these changes affect our self esteem. So, a healthy self concept is flexible. People change. The self concept resists change. The realistic self concept should reflect the way we change over time, but we have a strong tendency to resist revision of our self perception. We tend to seek out people who confirm it. This tendency is labeled cognitive conservatism. Self concept is subjective, flexible, resists change. So we will only change our self concepts when at least these four requirements are met. The review is offered by someone we see as competent to offer it. Parents satisfy this requirement extremely well. The appraisal must be seen as highly personal. The more the other person seems to know about us and adapts what is being said to fit us, the more likely we are to accept judgments from this person. The appraisal must be reasonable in light of what we believe about ourselves, and appraisals that are consistent and numerous are more persuasive than those that contradict usual appraisal or those that occur only once. So, these are four requirements for change in the self concept. It's all about appraisals, consistent, reasonable, from people very personal and people who are competent. Self disclosure. So, communication. Almost all effective communication requires some degree of self disclosure. Self disclosure means divulging biographical data, personal ideas, and feelings. Statements such as, I was born in Colombo, somewhere else, reveal biographical information, facts about you as an individual. So let us look at some of guidelines that can help us to recognize how to express ourselves in a way that is rewarding for us and for others involved. Is the other person or persons are the other persons important to you? Is the risk of disclosing reasonable? Is the self-disclosure appropriate? Is the disclosure relevant to the situation at hand? Is the disclosure reciprocated by the other party? With the effect, will the effect be constructive, not destructive? Will the effect be constructive? Is the self-disclosure clear and understandable? So is self-disclosure important in a teacher-student relationship? Recall of a personal example when you helped a student to self-disclose. So let us move forward in our discussion. Establishing interpersonal influence. Stop for a minute and think of a time you tried to get someone to do something for you. Were you successful? Did you pay any attention to thinking about how you would proceed? Did you think about how the person you were talking to might react? Think about it. Interpersonal influence is primarily concerned with symbolic efforts to preserve or change our attitudes or behavior of others. It is fundamental to all human relationships and a part of most conversations. So, interpersonal power in relationships. Interpersonal power is the potential that one person has for changing the attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors of another person. So, research has continued to support the claim that people who are perceived as more expert, attractive, trustworthy, and credible are likely to be persuasive. So, French and Raven, 1968, proposed that people who have strong power bases will be effective in influencing others, for example, parents and teachers. They identified five major sources of power in relationships: coercive, reward, legitimate, expert, and referent. So that is in this figure, power relationships, the sources of power relationships. Coercive. People have coercive power if they can harm others physically and or psychologically should others resist the influence attempt. Reward power. People have reward power when they are able to provide others with monetary, physical, or psychological benefits that they desire. Legitimate power. People have legitimate power when they use the status that comes from being elected, being selected, or holding a position to influence others. So, all these are positions in a way: power, prestige, wealth. Expert power. People have expert power when they have knowledge that others do not have. Expert power is both subject and relationship specific. Referent power. People have referent power when others are attracted to them because of their physical appearance, image, charisma, or personality. So, this is part of our discussion. So, now we are going to move to another one, that is compliance gaining strategies. While persuasion is the art of getting others to change their beliefs or actions, compliance gaining focuses on influencing others to do what you want them to do. They are in compliance with what you want. So, how to get the compliance? Supporting evidence strategies, exchange strategies, direct request strategies, empathy based strategies, phase maintenance strategies, other benefit strategies, distributive strategies to get the compliance. So, supporting evidence strategies. This draws primarily on reasoning. A person seeks compliance by presenting reasons and or evidence. Exchange strategies. In exchange strategies, a person seeks compliance by offering trade offs. Although an exchange strategy does not give reasons directly, it does imply the presence of a reason. Direct request strategies. A person seeks compliance by asking another to behave in a particular way. Empathy based strategies. A person seeks compliance by appealing to another's love, affection, or sympathy. People word the persuasive statement in a way that tries to show the importance of how others feel about them. For example, phase maintenance strategies. In phase maintenance strategies, a person seeks compliance while using indirect messages and emotion eliciting statements. Other benefit strategies in that a person seeks compliance by identifying behaviors that benefit the other person. In distributive strategies, a person seeks compliance by threatening or making the other person feel guilty. So, these are important for communication. These are the strategies people use. Assertiveness is another important point that we discuss. It is the art of declaring our personal preferences and defending our personal rights while respecting the preferences and rights of others. It requires us to describe our feelings honestly and verbalize our needs and personal rights. Such messages may include describing feelings, giving good reasons for a belief, or suggesting behaviors or positions we think are fair. So let us consider the ways of interacting when we believe our rights or feelings are in danger of being violated or ignored, in order to understand the assertive behavior in the conversations. Passive behavior, aggressive behavior, assertive behavior. Assertiveness comes in three ways. Passive, when they do not state their honest opinions, do not describe deeply held feelings, or do not assume responsibility for their actions, so they become passive. Aggressive behavior, when they belligerently, violently, or confrontationally present their feelings, needs, or rights with little or no consideration for the feelings, needs, or rights of others. Aggressive messages can be judgmental, dogmatic, fault finding, and depend on coercive power. So, assertive behavior. People behave assertively when they openly represent their honest opinions, needs, and rights in a manner that persuades others while at the same time respects the feelings, needs, and rights of others. So, characteristics of assertive messages. So, these include so this is here our own ideas, thoughts, and feelings in the statements. Describe behavior and feelings. So, specific descriptive information to justify our requests. Maintain eye contact and self confident posture. Use a firm but pleasant tone of voice. Speak fluently. Be sensitive to the face needs of the other. So, these are strategies. But due to circumstances and pressure, we are forced to be aggressive. So, can you share your experience of such nature? Do you have any regrets in behaving so? Why? So, try to find answers. So, these are two questions for you to think about. It has been said that good communicators arise out of one's interaction with family members, peers, and society as a whole. State the criteria that we need to have in order to produce positive self esteem. So, find the answers. Are you a changed person now compared to 10 years ago? Why did you change? Did you see yourselves a better communicator now? So, these are questions for you to think about. So, this is Dr. George Pereira for IHS, and wish you all the best in your discussion and reflections on this particular topic. Thank you.